Hey, second graders. Today we are going to do Module 8, Lesson 11. And we are going to be making a whole with either 2 halves or 3/3 or 4/4. Okay, now you don't have these pieces. I'm going to show you the pieces that I have, and we're gonna just do a little bit of thinking with them. So first, let's talk circles, right? And circles are, I guess, I don't know. It's one of those weird things. Are they a polygon? Or are they not? They don't have straight sides. So I guess I would say that they're not. But they are a closed shape. It's just got that one round, I guess, sort of side. So I have a circle here, and this one here is partitioned into halves. And so it's got 1/2 and 1/2. So I'm going to cut it apart. And so this would be like, if this is the whole thing, then this is what 1/2 of the circle would look like. So this would be 1/2, 1/2, and then together the 2 halves make one whole. Okay. Well, then I have a circle that's partitioned into 3 equal pieces. What do we call that? Thirds, right. So I have a circle here that's partitioned into thirds, just like I taught you yesterday, where you find that center point and then you go straight up and then you kind of come out like at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Okay, so I'm going to snip my thirds apart. And so how many pieces will I have now if my circle's divided into thirds? I'm going to have 3, right. So 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 all together makes 3/3. Now, if we were going to count them and say how many thirds we have, we might say we have 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Okay, but they're each they're only 1/3. All right, but we put them together and it takes 3/3 to make a whole, but it only takes 2 halves to make the same whole. So it takes fewer pieces, but that's because the pieces are bigger. Okay, then I have a circle that's cut into fourths. So you can see that I have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. And remember, that's kind of like a plus sign. So I'm going to first snip the circle into halves, but then I'm going to snip each half in half. So when I snip a half in half, now I'm getting my 1/4 pieces. How many pieces will there be if a circle is divided into fourths? You're going to have 4 pieces. You're going to have 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. So you're going to have 4 pieces. Together, the fourths will make one whole, but I don't think I can, there. Okay, so if you have fourths of the same size circle, you have 4/4, 3/3, 2 halves. Now look at the size of the pieces. They start to get smaller, don't they? Because you got to have more of them. See, 1/4 is a little less than 1/3, and then 1/3 is less than 1/2. So they start to get smaller when you cut them into more pieces. Okay, so that's our circles. And so what I want you to think of is, if I hold up a piece, do you think you could tell me how many more or what else you need to complete the whole thing? Like if I held up 1/3, what would you need to complete the whole? You would need 2 more thirds, wouldn't you? So you would need this, and you would need, where did he go? There he is. This. So you would need 2 more thirds to complete the whole. So starting from 1/3, you would tell me 2 more thirds, or you say 1/3 and 1/3. There we go. What if I had 3/4 of a circle? How much more would I need to make the rest of this circle? I would need 1 more fourth, right? Exactly. So you would tell me that, because on some of your problems today, that's what it's going to ask you. Okay, let's talk about squares and rectangles. Okay, so the first thing I have here is I have this rectangle here that's partitioned into thirds, 3 equal pieces. So I'm going to snip it. This is one whole. Okay, so I have my thirds. So what if I only had this? what would I need to make the whole thing? Well, if this is 1/3, I'm going to need 2 more thirds because the whole thing has 3 thirds. Hey, wait a minute, I'm seeing a pattern. 3 and thirds is like 3. So to have the whole thing, if you have thirds, you've got to have all 3 of them. What about in my circle? Third, third, third. Yes, if you're talking thirds, if you're talking 3 pieces to a whole thing, you have to have all 3 of them to have the whole thing. So that's why it's thirds. But is that true with fourths? Let's see here. Here's my rectangle cut into fourths, or partitioned into fourths. I haven't cut it yet. I'm going to cut it right now. Okay. I noticed something about this rectangle. It is a rectangle, isn't it? But it's also a square. It's a special rectangle. All the sides are the same length. I'll go ahead and cut it. Okay. So the whole thing, you already saw that, and it's cut into fourths. So how many pieces am I going to need to have the whole thing? 4 fourths. Right. So to have the whole thing, you have to have all 4 fourths. So if you're just going to have, maybe you only have 2 fourths. How many more fourths are you going to need to have the whole thing? You're going to need 2 more fourths, right, to have the whole thing. What if you have 3 fourths? Now you only need 1 more fourth. So a whole in fourths, you're going to have 4 fourths. Let's see. Is that the same as the circle? Yes. When we cut that circle into fourths, we had to have 4 fourths to have the whole circle. So a whole is 4 fourths, 3 thirds, but halves, that's weird. 2 halves? Yes, that is right. A whole thing has to have 2 halves. Okay, so a half is weird because we don't say 2 seconds, do we? We could, I guess, but most people would say halves. So 2 halves is 1 whole thing. So if you just have 1 half, you're going to need 1 more half. If you have no halves, you're going to need, to make the whole thing, you're going to need 2 halves, right? Okay, let me set all of these pieces aside now. And let's see if there is anything else that we need to talk about today. Okay, they're going to ask you today to identify fractions. And your parents may write it differently than I've taught you so far. But so far, what I've taught you is to write the word. So if your parents are saying, or you can write it this way, that's true. That's true that you can. But so far, tell them, say, but Mrs. Leppings really only taught us how to write it with words. So how much is this? This is 1 half is shaded. So I would write O-N-E, 1 half, because I've taught you in words. But there's other ways too, of course. Your parents may be trying to get you to see that when people write it as a fraction, and I don't want to get too complicated today, people might write 1, and then this means out of 2 equal pieces. That's another way to say 1 half. You've probably seen that before. But what I'm looking for today is we want to be able to write it in words, okay? This is extra if you want to try it, but not required. Okay, so then they're going to ask you about what the whole looks like, and they're going to ask you what fractions you would need to color to shade in 1 whole. So it's not what is already there, it's what would you need to color to shade 1 whole. Because I looked at this at first, and I could see that line there, and so I could see that there were 2 pieces shaded. So I could see that this is 2 out of 3, so that's thirds. So I was going to write the words 2 thirds, but then I realized, wait a minute, they're not asking me what's shaded. They're asking me what would I need to color to shade 1 whole. So if I come over here and I color in that remaining white space, which is what you can do, what did I color in? I only colored in 1 third. So I would write 1 O-N-E T-H-I-R-D for 1 third. That's all I colored in, okay? So be careful. Always read those directions. All right. I think you have what you need today to be able to get all of this work done, and have fun today with your fractions. Bye.